for those of you who are hearing about us for the first time, we're small, we're based in London, we're a scale-up, but we already count many of the top local authorities by spend among our customers, many ministerial departments, most of the top suppliers to government are our customers, and we've got a full-time press officer that does nothing but answer questions like what is Birmingham City Council's biggest supplier, or how many contracts mentioning the dreaded RAC have been let, or how much does McKinsey make from the public sector, etc. There's lots of nuggets of news and insight in our database. So today I'm going to try and kind of put those nuggets at your disposal. Before you kind of, you heckle me, or if I provoke you or offend you or anything with what I say, then I feel okay about it, because actually all the data is based on open data. It's all based on something which your procurement team published through the procurement process, or which your finance team published as part of some kind of transparency obligation. So if you want to call me on anything, be careful, because I might turn the tables and actually kind of prove to you that you're overspending or underspending or whatever it is. Okay, so let's just start kind of at the top and then just get narrower and narrower. So the scope today is really north of England, I think within that, local government in particular. But how much does the north of England spend on IT? And this is annual procurement expenditure. And you can see the answer right in front of you. If you take the most recent year, and if you've got good eyesight, the answer is £1.7 billion. And that makes it a bloody big market in plain English, and a market which has grown quite steadily over the last few years. The whole market grew a chunk in the first year of COVID, and then far from kind of giving up those gains, that's just become the new normal. And the single biggest driver of ICT procurement expenditure in the north of England is actually the NHS, with a 57% share of the total. It's the blue part of the stack. You can see that the local government share has actually been declining over the period, and that's not because local government is kind of getting smaller. It's just because it's growing less fast than the procurement market in the north of England in general. That point becomes kind of clearer on this slide here. What we've done is we've looked at the different regions of England and plotted them on this slide. So how much they spend on ICT procurement and how fast that expenditure has grown over a 2 or 3 year period, I think it is. And what's interesting, though perhaps not totally surprising, is the Northwest is big and growing really quite quickly. That's the kind of top green bubble. And the Northeast over the same period has spent much less, about a quarter of the ICT expenditure of the Northwest, and its ICT spend has actually shrunk over that period. So within the North, you've got two quite different pictures, and you've got Yorkshire and the Humber somewhere in the middle. And then you can see those regions in relation to the others. So assuming that you're kind of, from a buying entity, a commissioning entity, you're in a local authority or an NHS trust or such like, the question here is, does your public body, does your local authority, for example, buck the trend? Or if we were to plot you in this chart, where would you be? So the power of our insight is in the ability not just to see your own procurement, you know about that better than we do, it's to see your procurement in the context of your peers, your neighbours, the market, the market generally. This chart just sets local government procurement side by side with NHS procurement in the north of England. And this is where my comment about local government spending being kind of flat over the period is very clear. Local government is in green, NHS is in blue. Local government kind of, ICT expenditure flat at around, £500 million per annum, equivalent to about 4% of its total procurement budget. NHS, about 1 billion in the most recent year, growing quite quickly year on year and accounting for about 10% of the procurement budget. So two really quite different procurement profiles there. And again, just asking questions like, why is the profile so different? How does your expenditure kind of benchmark against this profile? And is local government at risk of underinvesting in digital transformation? Is there such a squeeze that the digital side isn't getting the kind of the attention and the progress which I think you'll want and which kind of citizens expect? This just shows the top 5 commissioning entities in terms of ICT procurement in the north of England for the NHS and for local government. One observation from this slide is that the top 5 account for about 20% of all the purchasing within the region, both in local gov and NHS. So a reasonably kind of concentrated market. But the question here is really kind of how much clout do you have as a commissioner, as a purchasing organisation? The answer is usually a lot more than you realise. If local authorities or NHS trusts went into more negotiations knowing how much of a given supplier's total revenue or regional revenue or NHS revenue they accounted for, you might actually negotiate quite differently. All the suppliers use our service because they want an edge over you when they're selling to you. They want to go into a negotiation with you and know more about you than you may know about yourselves, or certainly than you know about them. And this is really an invitation for you to level the playing field or turn the tables a little bit. If you look at this in some sectors where there's a lot of local purchasing, it's not uncommon for a local authority to account for, 50-60% of a local supplier's total public sector revenue. And I'm not saying that gives you the right to squeeze the hell out of them. That's not what you're there to do. But knowing how much clout you have is a data point in the kind of commercial outcomes that you get from your suppliers. And so it's really kind of worth looking at that. Many of our biggest local authority clients, Essex, Westminster, Camden, that's exactly what they're doing.